Hello everyone, and thank you very much for joining us here in the newsroom. I'm Hwang Ji-hye. In the next half hour or so, we'll be bringing you the behind-the-scenes look on how we deliver the news to you, and also hear from our reporters on some of their candid accounts of the stories they've been covering throughout this week. In the newsroom begins now. Right, so it's already the last week of November.
I can't believe it.
Right, we have about a month to go until the end of 2012.
So sad.
The time flew so
I'm gonna
fast.
get 1 year older.
Looking back, I mean, we've covered quite a number of major stories, I think, from March, Nuclear Security Summit, April, general elections, May, Yeosu Expo, what else? July and August, we had the Olympics and presidential election in the U.S. And I guess, and I guess the highlight of this year is really the presidential election here in Korea.
Right, it's gonna be the grand finale, right?
Right, exactly. And you are, well, responsible of following all the election campaign, the pledges, the polls. It must be very hectic for you.
It is. So the biggest news that struck us all was, how independent Ahn Cheol-soo stepped down, so that Moon Jae-in, DUP's Moon Jae-in, could become the single opposition candidate.
With the unexpected withdrawal of independent candidate Ahn Cheol-soo last week, the two-way matchup between ruling Unity Party presidential hopeful Park Geun-hye and opposition Democratic United Party's Moon Jae-in has just gotten tighter.
That's right. Our Kim Yeon-ji has been closely following the race. She joins us now in the studio with the latest poll figures and to tell us what to look forward to in the days leading up to the December election.
Right, Yeon-ji, welcome to the program. Let's start with the poll numbers. So how has Ahn Cheol-soo's exit from the race been received by Ahn supporters?
Well, not in the way Moon would have liked. Despite Ahn calling on his backers to support Moon, a poll conducted by Global Research on Saturday, the day after Ahn's announcement, shows that Moon has failed to reel in all of Ahn's supporters. Roughly 59% of Ahn supporters did say they've decided to vote for Moon, but 20% say they will vote for the ruling party's Park Geun-hye, and the remaining 21% say they are undecided about who they will vote for, if they even decide to vote at all.
So it's going to be a tough race for Moon Jae-in, right? The opposition
Right. So the biggest task for Moon Jae-in is to, persuade Ahn's voters, because Ahn supporters are disappointed with how Moon handled the unification process, and they think that Ahn Cheol-soo were kind of forced to, step down because the Moon side was not willing to negotiate even a little bit, back down a little bit, and then really bring this together. They were supposed to hold a nationwide survey, but that never came through. So a lot of disappointment there. And everything will change once Ahn Cheol-soo kind of declares that, okay, I'm going to really support Moon Jae-in now, and I'm going to serve in this capacity, that kind of thing. But until then, I think Moon Jae-in has a lot of things to do to persuade Ahn supporters and, gain the votes from previous Ahn supporters.
Right, like Ji mentioned, it looks like a tight race, a two-horse race now, and the official campaigning has begun. And here the two candidates are using airwaves to win the voters' hearts and minds. And of course, we cannot leave out the battle of political ads between the two. How different are there? Is there a stark difference between the two?
Have you guys seen it already?
Yes, I have. I have seen it on the first day when it was aired. Well, yeah.
Your thought?
Well, personally, I prefer Moon Jae-in's advertisement.
How so?
Well, because the one of Park Geun-hye's was more like she was concentrating on her scar that she got in 2006, I think. Yeah, but for me, it felt kind of too much, Yeah, it is a big, it could be a big scar for her, in her life, but I guess I'm not sure if it will touch just people's heart with the scar she got.
Yeah, I think her ad is aimed to kind of provoke people's emotions, you know, and I really saw a glimpse of death when this man slashed my face, you know, and I got this 11-centimeter scar across my cheek, but you know, because of the people that supported me, like I could come back to life, and it's my turn to give my life for the people and heal the wounds of Korea. So it's like a lot of emotions there. So I thought, okay, I saw a new side of Park Geun-hye actually personally, but Moon Jae-in's TV ad, it's more about the country that he wants to make.
And
you know?
also, I
Right.
thought it was the personal side of him, like showing the personal side of him, you know, like as an ordinary citizen living
Right.
in Korea. So.
You know, he shows his living room. So the camera peeks into his house, and then he's like barefooted, and he's sitting on his sofa and going over his speech, you know, while his wife is ironing his shirt, you know, on a side. And so it's very cozy, and he's appealing his friendly image and says, you know, I've made 239 speeches, like presidential stump speeches so far, but if you can't remember all of them, just remember these 3 words. You know, you will have equal opportunities, and the processes will be fair, and the results will be just. So just 3 keywords, boom. So both ads have their own strengths, but I thought it was pretty interesting. Yeah.
I heard that, you know, the living room scene in the advertisement, I heard that there's something controversial going on because of the chair that he was sitting on.
Yeah, some people say the chair is really costly, very expensive, very luxurious.
People who are actually
I know.
looking at something else.
Details.
The devil is on the
Just look
details.
online.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right. So how are our political correspondents and reporters going to cover this humongous, historic event?
Just like a week ago, everything was kind of blurry. Like we haven't really decided on anything. But just now, we had our group meeting, and we, you know, took out our
Is that a timetable?
calendars. Yeah.
전 총선에 비교해서 워낙 큰 일렉션이니까 당연히 그래서 다 같이 했으면 좋겠어요. 그래서 아이디어 풀해서
대선 당일날도 저희가
그렇죠.
막 좀 길게 라이브로 하면 짬짬이 틀 수 있는 거를 미리 좀 제작을 해놔가지고 이때부터 약간 하나씩 넣어가지고
네.
틀
그것도 좋은
수
생각이죠.
있게
사람들만 딱 그 인터뷰에 붙여가지고 뭐 하나의 서브젝트에 대해서 물어보고 막 이렇게 빨리빨리 딱 커트 넘어가는데
뭐 어떤 식으로 이렇게 진행돼 왔는지를 총정리하길 원하시는지
Just focus on the 2 and what happens from this point until this day.
그때 당시에 그 전날 가장 이슈되는 공약이든 뭐든
네.
20일 날 유인 씨하고 연주 씨는 한 사람 박근혜, 한 사람은 문재인이 된 걸로 치고 패키지를 준비를 해야 돼요.
프로파일.
전날에 박근혜랑 문재인이랑 취재 나가야 되지 않을까요? 그거 유세 마지막 날인데
뭔가 민심이 조금 변화가 있거나 아무튼 그런 지역을 방문할 때, 그러니까 박근혜 같으면 뭐 전라도를 갔는데 뭐가 어떻게 되느니 뭐
한 4일, 10일, 16일 날 TV 토론회가 정해져 있는 게
맞아요.
있어요.
알아요.
선관위. 내가 할게. 16일 날.
화요일 새벽인 것 같아요.
그럼 10일 날을 내가 할까?
예.
그래도 되게 많이 잡혔다.
It will be all set very soon, I think. So I feel a little better. Although it's a huge task ahead of us, but I'm confident that we can do it. We can pull it off together, right?
We've got less than a month left until the big day, and obviously, like you said, the race is on. It's going to be a neck and neck situation. So a lot of the candidates are out trying to woo the voters with their campaign pledges, and like you said, with lots to do with the economy, blah blah blah. But I guess welfare policies have been overflowing from both sides since it's very, very important.
Yeah, because I mean, Korea's population is aging very fast. It's like faster even than Japan, which has the largest proportion of elderly population. To give a number, experts expect the ranks of Korea's so-called, elderly Silver Age community to swell steadily starting from 2020. And this is because millions of baby boomers, which account for like 1/4 of the total population, will like give up their jobs and retire. So this bunch of people will retire and go into the so-called Silver Age communities. So the business is going to be huge, and the government, as you said, is also aiming to
Cater for them.
Exactly.
Right, so the silver industry, tell us more. Is this going to be a lucrative one? I know that you talked about this huge bracket of people.
I know.
But does that necessarily mean?
I mean, because more population is going to join the specific age group. I mean, they would spend more, so the business is obviously, experts are expecting the business to get larger and huge, but currently it's in its initial stage. I mean, it's not that huge as in Japan, which has a very huge aging population. But I have visited one of a silver community in Korea nearby the capital Seoul, and I met some elderly people who really want to live young and active.
So it's more of a luxurious retirement village?
Yeah, it is. And the one that I visited was that kind of village. And
tell us more about the village. I'm quite intrigued.
Well,
what do they have? Spa? And
Yeah, there are a lot of facilities, spa, gym, some places where libraries, small movie theaters, and
인터뷰 하나만 하고 운동하시는 분 중에 한 명. 네, 안녕하세요. 저 아리랑 TV 황지혜 기자라고 하는데요. 여기는 언제 들어오셨어요?
2년 전에.
여기 조금 돈이 들더라도 여기 들어오시니까 좋은 것 같아요.
여기가 환경이 굉장히 좋아요. 단독주택 버티면서도 여러 가지 편의 시설이 골고루 갖춰져 있어가지고 우리 같은 사람들 살기가 아주 쾌적해요.
I guess they're trying to take the burden off their children
Exactly.
and have their own living.
yeah, and they're very satisfied. Actually, one of the elderly people that I met was a reporter. Not a reporter, he was a journalist. Yeah, and in a news agency. He used to be a journalist in the
So
news
he
agency.
retired and started living there?
Yeah.
And you recognized him?
No, I just went to him and I asked him if I could do an interview with him, and then
He told you that he was
yeah,
a
that
reporter.
I used to be a journalist in a news agency, one of the biggest news agencies in Korea. So I was surprised, and I guess those kind of people will increase in the near future when more baby boomers will enter that specific age bracket. So experts are expecting the industry to get larger and so on.
I don't know, the feelings that I get, you know how the word like silver town or like silver facilities or whatever, it kind of carries this connotation that, don't you have your children? And in Korea, traditionally, like children were supposed to, serve their parents, live with their parents and attend to their needs. So I don't know, I still have that perception. So I'm like, are they there like because of their choice? And now like are people more like, okay, why not? It's a good alternative. It has many services, so it's okay. I'm perfectly satisfied with this kind of service. So is that a new kind of trend? There's a change of perception?
Yeah, definitely, because it's not a place where elderly people are forced to go. They choose to go there and live, so it's definitely a change of perception.
I think to a certain extent they're choosing, but Korea is becoming more westernized in a lot of aspects, and they don't want to put the burden on their children. So it's not they're trying to help out their kids. I'm guessing because of course they want to live with their, children.
And
But,
actually, they're choosing living in those kind of silver communities from living in just ordinary apartments. So it's like a new business lingering right there. And yeah. So.
And the point that also strikes me is the fact that this could be limited to the
Yes.
the haves rather than the nots.
Yeah, that is.
So,
But
right.
it's always aging population. It could be a very good news for some, but also for some, it's a huge social problem for those who don't have. Yeah, and so it always has the goods and bads. So.
Speaking of booming industries here in Korea, I hear that Hyun-bin, you went out for another in-depth report on another business.
Yes,
Tell us
it
more.
was actually my first in-depth, but it was about the coffee industry, how is booming since like 6 years ago. They only had about 1,200 shops, but now by the end of 2011, the stats shows that they have over 12,000. You can't walk far in Korea, particularly Seoul, without seeing a coffee shop. Often, you can see 2, 3, or even more in a single block or building. Korea's coffee industry was estimated to be worth around $4 billion in 2011, with coffee specialty stores taking up over half the market. This is a relatively new phenomenon, however, as just a few years ago, coffee shops weren't nearly as popular. In 2006, when the coffee craze first began in Korea, there were only 1,200 coffee shops in the country. According to the latest figure by KB Financial Group, in 2011, that number grew to 12,300, an increase of 10-fold. And the coffee industry continues to boom. So it's definitely booming, and if you go out in the city or any city in Korea, you could find a coffee shop nearby.
Yes.
Yeah, just walking a couple blocks, or maybe in the same block. There's even 3-4 I've seen, like in Gangnam here. So it's definitely booming, and it's becoming a little too packed for coffee shops because there's too many in the streets. So the government passed a bill recently showing that there shouldn't be another coffee shop in the 500-meter radius of another shop, and that shows how much of an impact the coffee industry has in Korea.
Right, it's amazing because these little things, it costs almost a meal.
I know.
But people, some places run for 24 hours, and you try to get a seat there, and sometimes it's really hard to get even a spot. So, definitely coffee shops are booming, but is it because of the coffee or itself?
Well, it's different from it's preference-wise. Some people like the taste of it and choose to go to a certain franchise, but people usually, like these days, like the atmosphere they provide, like the cozy atmosphere, and some are, a little hit. Like it's for the younger generation. There's all kinds of different cafes for like couples or to study in. So it's your preference. And there's a sociologist that we met up with said, coffee itself is not that much different from place to place. Maybe it tastes a little different, but it's coffee, right? It's the atmosphere they provide. That makes people want to go to a certain place.
It's become a culture.
Yes. It's
I
become
think
very westernized.
Right, I think that's how Starbucks made a huge success, creating a certain side of Starbucks culture in its coffee shops.
Yeah, Starbucks was the first franchise that came into Korea about a decade ago, but it's the biggest franchise still. Coffee beans following right beneath, but still, yeah.
So your debut, let's talk about your debut.
Okay.
How did you find it?
How did I find it? Well, there's a lot of different articles here and there about coffee industry itself. So I just wanted to put that, as one, and trying to figure out a good way to approach this. And my way was trying to find out the economic factors behind the coffee boom. And Connie was with me. She did another package on the social aspect. So we connected those two and made an in-depth out of that.
아내랑 다 촬영하고 여기 이제 커피 만드는 거 좀 안에 들어가가지고 좀 촬영 좀 많이 해요. 지나갈게요 여기 만드는 것까지 뭐 시키시고 하는 거 그냥 그 과정만 살짝 찍을게요. 특별히 찾는 가맹점 있으신지 말씀해 주세요. 하루에 커피를 몇 잔 마시면 이런 카페 가맹점 같은 거는 한 일주일에 몇 번 정도 찾아오시는지.
일주일에 2번 이상 찾는
짤막하게 나오거든요. 그 질문이 훨씬 질문.
그냥 여기 일주일에 몇 번. 동네에서 가까운 친구들 만날 때는 좀 늦게 만나서
확실히 부족하지 않지.
저희 브랜드의 인테리어 컨셉은 주요 고객층이 20대, 30대.
네, 수고하셨습니다.
Right, so you worked in tandem with Connie, and from your coverage, I've seen a number of coffee shops. How many have you been to?
Well, for the inside, we have to get a approval beforehand, and so we only went into about 4 coffee shops and got the inside happenings. But for the outside, like the logos and the coffee shop in the outskirts, we went to probably around 15, over 10, because we need a lot of footage for just the coffee shops and how many there were. So we're like everywhere here and there.
Great job, great job. So, okay, I know with just less than a month left until the presidential, election, the next week or so is going to be hectic and crazy, but let's try to find time to, for a short coffee break or so and to vent our stress and fatigue. Let's do that. All right, have a good one.
All right.
We'll continue with her special coverage on the popularity of Taekwondo in South America. Our Hwang Ji-hye files us this video clip from Mexico. Let's take a look.
Bienvenido a Mexico. I'm in the city of Mexico, the country's capital, and our second destination of our 3 nations tree covering Taekwondo in the Americas. Now back in Aruba in the Caribbean island, went to the Para Championships, and the Para Championships where I met a lot of athletes with drama and stories there. And here in Mexico, our first nation was Puebla, a city will be hosting the World Championships next year. And I also met some children who were actually practicing in their own town. Now, did you know that Taekwondo was the second most practiced sport here in Mexico after football? Now, that proved when I went to meet the athletes and the little kids and children practicing at their own schools. Now, today I'm going to meet some athletes who actually participated in 2022 London Olympic Games, as well as the little junior national team who are practicing to participate in the 2016 Rio Games. Now wait for me and to just keep an eye on my packages and stories. I'll be bringing you more in a week, and I'll see you guys back in a week at the studio.
빨리빨리 딱 스쿼트 넣었는데 굉장히 괜찮았어요. 그리고 그때
연지 씨가 그 드라프트 폴스를 가져왔더라고요. 그러길래
신기하다. 못 찍었죠? 찍었어? 못 찍어. 조금 앉아 계시고 조금 보는 거 찍고
카메라 쪽을 보시지 마시고 저를 보시면